Alright, I've been up for 17 hours. I think it's just about time to go to bed, but before I did that, I wanted to talk about No More Heroes Travis Strikes Again, which I finished today. And I just kind of wanted to get my video of it out while my thoughts are still fresh. I have some notes on it here. I don't have the best opinion of the game, I'll tell you that right now. The gameplay and the aesthetic of the game are the best parts. The game kind of experiments with different graphical styles, kind of looks pretty cool. And the gameplay is just kind of this very simple, very quick, fun, sort of arcadey type gameplay. But the gameplay does get old, especially in the last level. I'll get to the last level later. But the gameplay and the aesthetic, those are really the only parts that I could really compliment and say were very consistent. Everything else is either very shaky or just kind of outright not good. The story is pretty straightforward, but a lot of the dialogue is confusing, and I have no idea if there's any meaning to it. Before I got the game, I was kind of expecting the stuff in the levels of the games within the game to be pretty silly. But I said, oh, there's actually going to be these chapters in between the levels where Travis goes off on his own journey, and it's kind of like told like a visual novel style. And those are also not good. those almost take themselves less seriously than the levels themselves. And so much of the dialogue in the game, it's clear, I think, that Suda is trying to do something where each game has a boss that is supposed to be kind of like a different type of killer or like a different type of person, and you're supposed to compare them to Travis, I guess, but like I just can't fathom like any of this stuff. Like maybe I'm a freaking idiot, but also like so much of the dialogue is so ridiculous that like I have no idea if I'm supposed to be getting anything out of this at all. And I will look for explanations on this stuff. Someone was like, "Oh, the old man, the third game is supposed to represent these games from when gaming was first getting big, and they were sort of trying to satisfy their fathers who were like Zork in those original games, and they were trying to do right by them. But now it's time for them to just kind of be forgotten." It's like I don't freaking know. Is that what he was trying to do? I don't know. He's an old guy. If that's what you got out of it, it's great. But I mean, there's so many random things that they say about killers and killing, which is like what all shooter games are like. But like, at least in his other ones, you can kind of get a beat on what he's trying to do. Overall, I just kind of had a big problem with the tone of this game. It doesn't balance silliness and seriousness nearly as well as Suda's other games, especially the other No More Heroes games. No More Heroes 1 is the best No More Heroes because it really gets this balance very right. 2 is a bit sillier than 1, but I think there's the thing in 2 where you get this sense that time has sort of passed in Santa Destroy. That's one thing that I think is done really well. It kind of grounds the whole experience, is that you do get the sense from the levels and even from the changes in the graphics that sort of Santa Destroy is like almost become more urban, more of a city. And that's just one interesting thing I can think of for No More Heroes 2, that like I wouldn't say this game really has anything comparable to that. And No More Heroes 2 is sillier than No More Heroes 1, but No More Heroes 1 is just really very good because even when it's silly, there's an air of seriousness to it. Like in the cutscene where Thunder Ryu dies, you sort of do get the impression like Suda knows what happened with these characters, and he's just not telling us. While in this game, when stuff happens, you just think, oh, it just happened because he thought it was funny. And this goes right down to the few voiced character lines in the game. I'm gonna start getting into spoilers. So if you haven't played the game, or if you care, then probably don't watch any further than this. There aren't many voiced character lines in the game. Most of the character lines you hear are at the very end, and like right down to the voice lines, there's sort of, I don't want to say Flanderization, but there's like kind of a change in the way the characters sound. It's like a bit more simplified. I guess you could say Flanderized, but we don't really know enough about the characters to know if they've been that way. Where Travis he's a lot gruffer now. Like he's always angry, and like he could speak very casual in the other games, and even right from the intro. I noticed this right from the intro, which they redubbed with Robin Atkin Downs. I'm very glad he's back, certainly. But even right from the intro, you can tell that like he does this thing. He's trying to talk like this, and he kind of ends his lines with like this sort of exhalation a lot. And Travis used to do that sometimes, but now it's like every line, which is weird. And then Shinobu is at the end, And it's like she's still doing her No More Heroes 2 thing of like being sexy and into Travis, except it's like taken up even further. She has like a few lines, not many, like 3 or 4 lines, and all of them sound that way. And it's like ridiculous. Like you call Kimberly Brooks into the studio just to do these stupid ass lines in this stupid ass voice. Like I kind of don't know how she's okay with it. I don't know what kind of schedule they were on to record this, which I'll also get into. Stuff that has to do with that. And I just don't really get it. Like Steve Bloom is the one who does the best job as Badman, because Badman just kind of sounds like a guy, and because he's a new character. Travis and Shinobu, they just sound like, they do sound flanderized. They sound like the voices would kind of go along with like these sort of simplified versions of the characters, and that's the whole thing, is like there's just no way to tell if Suda cares about anything. There's no consistency to anything. Travis mentions that he has a wife and kid at one point, but that's never discussed. Shinobu was left at the end of No More Heroes 2. We had no idea what happened to her, and then she just comes back in this game, and we don't hear what happened to her. We don't know if we're going to hear what happened to her in No More Heroes 3. She was supposed to be the secret boss in No More Heroes 2, and when she wasn't the secret boss, they didn't put anything in to tell us what happened after she left Stand and Destroy. Seems like we would want to know that, because it seemed like there was things left unsaid between her and Travis. By the way, that scene, the last scene she has with Travis, great mix of serious and funny that this game lacks. And there's stuff right down to Bishop is now back, but they do this whole thing of like, oh, it's Bishop's brother who's also named Bishop. But like, here's the thing. They go like, oh, Bishop, the original, was like Bosha Monosho. He has like a really weird name. His name was Bosha Monosho Bishop. And this other guy is like Marky Bishop or whatever. And it's like, dude, Bishop was his first name. His name was Bishop Shedux. I didn't even have to look this up. I remember this. His last name was Shedux. Bishop was his first name. Now, not only are you doing this weird retcon where you're like, oh, we need a new Bishop for some reason. Why? I don't know. We're going to Beefhead. Is Beefhead and still in Sand Destroy? Is Travis going back to Sand Destroy in like a random-ass 2D segment of this game? That seems like it should be a big thing. In any case, he's going back to Beefhead because we need to see Beefhead again for some reason. And now there's a new Bishop. And it's like, why? Like, why does it matter that Bishop's in the game? Like, I get that you don't, like... I don't know. Just because you don't care means that that doesn't mean that I'm not gonna care. Like the Bishop death thing was already handled kind of weirdly in No More Heroes 2, where it didn't seem like it had quite the level of importance that it should have. Even though it was the thing that drove the story. And now you're just like saying that it didn't matter. Like, what I would have thought would have been cool to do is have Kimmy Howell run Beefhead. I'm a cool idea. Like, why the frick not? Like, I don't know if they have any plans for her anyway. I'm sure there'd be a couple other characters you can think of. Naomi, even. I don't know. She's not in this game. So it's just that real clashing of tone. Here's one of the biggest things is the cat Jean. She talks now, and at first this is only in the visual novel segments. Where she's portrayed with this little anime thing. You can go, okay, well, these are weird. These are kind of innovative as visual novels. And it's like kind of a different thing, a different tones, a different aesthetic. But then she also like sends you faxes, and then she legit has a voiced line. It's the last line in the game. Kind of. There's a little secret extra thing after the credits, but basically it's the last line in the game. She has a voiced line. You don't see her saying it because the credits are rolling while the voices are going. But she has it. And it's so weird. It's like, why? Like, after 2 games of being a normal cat, like, why is she talking now? Like, why'd you do that? Like, is this going to continue? Like, it's all in good fun, but, like, what do I have to, like, grab onto here, especially compared to the other games? Like, that's the thing, is the games were not always like this. People are going to try to tell you that they are, which is what happens when series change over time. One Piece is a great example. People say, oh, One Piece is as good as it's ever been. One Piece has changed like substantially from how it used to be. People don't understand because it happens slowly. They don't see it. No More Heroes is actually quite a stark difference. People just aren't going to remember from the old games. Gene talking. Weird as hell. There's a lot of crossovers in this game, and a lot of them are cool, but similarly kind of going into this whole thing of like, this game is just a freaking mishmash of random fun stuff Suda wanted to do, and he didn't care how they connected. a lot of the crossovers don't really make sense. The 25th Ward stuff is okay. There's several characters from 25th Ward in it. And maybe they could have gotten a little more, like, I wouldn't have minded it if the visual novel segments were longer, which they make jokes about the length of the visual novel segments, where he's like, oh, I'm going to make a couple of these shorter. I wouldn't have minded if they were longer to give more cohesion to these crossovers, because some of them, they do have an air of importance to them. Even Kamui from the Silver Case series, or a Kamui from the Silver Case series in there. Luckily, the most important crossovers are probably the best things in the entire game. There are two crossover points in the game where they actually do get the sort of the tone that they're going for, and it really, really, really works. One is this new intro they just added in a couple of days ago, and it was a 7-day update that they did to the game after it had been out for a week, where they added a new intro that emulates the graphical style of Killer 7 and has Dan Smith in it. It's really good. It takes itself seriously, and it's just very cool how it ties those two universes together. The other point is there's a Shadows of the Damned level in the game, which is freaking amazing. I had no idea it was coming. It was really cool, because Shadows of the Damned it's one of those Suda games that Suda didn't really work on that much, or not as much as he used to. And it's a game with a cool aesthetic that has a lot of problems. So it was really cool to see them revisit that in this like really cool intro cutscene that uses the characters, the sound effects that you remember, the voice actors that you remember from the game, and just doing something really cool. It really did feel like a Shadows of the Damned sequel, which is what that level is supposed to be. And throughout the level, you actually go backwards through the first Shadows of the Damned video game in these very accurately recreated environments. Super duper cool. There's one thing I was going to say with that. Right. One thing that's hilarious about that is in some of the dialogue, they literally, I'm not at the right place to use that word, go into complaints people had about the first Shadows of the Damned. And this is stuff that, like, I've been thinking about for a long time. Every time you would think about Shadows of the Damned, every time I would think about it, I would go, oh, you know, it was lame how that boss, like Justine or whatever her name was, they lead up to throughout the whole game, but then it turns out that you just fight her. It's like a weird 2D game where you're just flying around. It's in 2D. It freaking sucks. They reference that. They reference how there's like no New Game Plus or anything like that, which is really funny. That's well done. One thing I will say about the Killer 7 thing is that crossing over those two universes doesn't make sense, because Killer 7 pretty clearly takes place in a very different world than most of Suda's other games. There are connections with the Silver Case series, but like one thing that I think Suda himself probably forgot about Killer 7 is that there's no internet. That's like something they mentioned one time in the game, and I think it is consistent throughout the whole game, because Garcian has to get contacted through his phone by Mills whenever there's a new contract. Is that the internet was like outlawed in Killer 7. So like disregarding that, things work probably pretty well, considering maybe that, because I don't know if they do work, because there's timeline discrepancies. Like obviously this game takes place before Killer 7, because Dan Smith is alive. He hasn't been dissipated. But at the same time, Killer 7 is supposed to take place, I want to say 2011 is where it ends, right? It takes place over like a 3-year period or something. So that doesn't make any sense, because I think this game is supposed to take place in present time. There's other stuff like Travis mentions he has a wife and kids casually at some point, which is like really weird. It's like, why does this not matter to him? Like, what, like I think the best way to think of this game, which is definitely how I want to try to think of it so I can stop complaining as much, is as like a Grasshopper 20th anniversary celebration game, which is actually how they introduce it in the new updated intros as the Grasshopper 20th anniversary game. As a celebration of Grasshopper, you can say, okay, all these references are just kind of in here. They're just doing what they do. They're just here to have fun. And it's like, all right, I guess I can understand that. But I was expecting something where within the game levels there would be silliness, and it would sort of be wrapped around a more serious story that was like the No More Heroes games of the past. That's not what we got. I feel like I was going to say something. So yeah, another of my big complaints about this game is that it's unfinished. It really is unfinished. Like, not only are there a lot of typos in the game, one of which was actually on the screen when you lose a life. It says loser, but it's that horrendous typo misspelling that I hate, where it's loser spelled like looser. Thank God they fixed that in the first update. But there's still a lot of typos. Not only that, the entire fourth level of the game is missing. And those of you who have played the game might go like, "Oh, that's just like a little joke." You go into this unfinished world, um, where it's just like it's like in dev and Unreal, and there's assets around, and then you go into this little arcade game. That's what it's supposed to be. Not what it was supposed to be. You might have looked at the DLC and saw that there's going to be a real version of that level coming as a DLC level. And you might think, oh, that was the plan all the time. Was not the plan. If you go back and look at some of the pre-release scans from like Famitsu, um, there that level is just said it's in with all the other levels. Killer Marathon. It's a marathon level where they kill each other. The boss's name's Silverface. His name is Silverface. He's on the cover of the game. He's a black guy with Silverface paint. He's not in the game. So like they clearly wanted to have the level in the game. They didn't finish it in time. They replaced it with this in-depth joke thing and then an arcade game. And then right, the last level of the game. The last level of this game is so bad. It's so bad. Like, I need to look up what people think about this, because it's like such a bad last level. It's literally a collection of mazes, and then you get a cool boss room at the end. The boss room is the only thing that's cool about this level. It's supposed to be this freaking like secret underground CIA headquarters in like the real world, not a game world, and it looks so bad. It's a freaking colored maze. Like, it looks like freaking GameCube level graphics. Like, it's so bad. Like, if you saw screenshots of it, you like wouldn't even believe it. And like, I don't know, it's got to be that they didn't make it. Like, they just wanted to make a level and they didn't make it, so they just made a bunch of freaking mazes. Like, I can't explain it any other way. The level is so bad. All it is the only interesting thing in there is Hotline Miami references, which it also don't add up to anything. They act like you're gonna fight a Hotline Miami guy and then you don't. I don't know if they're planning that for DLC. Man, that level sucks. The DLC, though, especially when you take out Killer Marathon, which is probably supposed to be in the game in the first place, it's pretty sparse. We're gonna get Shinobu and we're gonna get Bad Girl, who, like, I've already played this game a lot. Excuse me. And there's not going to be much for me to do when I get those characters, except for the new level. Like, yeah, I'll get enough gameplay out of that, but like, I've already gotten almost all the K factors that you get from replaying levels, just because you want to replay them to get experience, money, you want to get the hidden characters, you want to find Jean. And then you're going to get a couple new scenarios for the visual novel, which are probably going to be short. One's just going to be about how Batman turned Bad Girl back into a human from a dog. Pretty funny plot point, by the way. And then the other is going to be who knows what. More teasing for a third game, maybe. So yeah, the whole thing did kind of disappoint me. I expected a spinoff, but I expected just something a little more consistent. For instance, here's a great for instance. There's a lot of fourth wall breaking stuff in this game. It would have been really good to keep that within the game levels, within the game, as conversations about these games. Because some of the fourth wall humor is like that, where Travis is talking about the games that he's playing. I mean, heck, he talks about how much he's a big Shadows of the Damned fan. That's really funny. The fact that Shadows of the Damned is a game within the universe of No More Heroes, and Travis talks about it, because that is fourth wall humor. You don't have to look at the camera and talk to the audience for it to be a fourth wall joke. But then there's like a lot of fourth wall humor all over the game, including in the visual novel segments, where like a lot of it is just kind of overdone. They even make a Deadpool joke at one point, which is like where they say they did it first, which they didn't, because Deadpool was a comic before No More Heroes existed. And it's like, you should have kept that to one part of the game. Like, that's what I'm kind of talking about when I mean consistency, when I mean balance of tone. It's just like kind of know when to do the really silly things and know when to not do them. I think if the adventure, they call it adventure, it's just like a visual novel. I think if those sections were more serious, I think that would make the game so much better. I probably wouldn't be complaining about anything else. Like, if they took those sections and made them like something more like the silver case, this video is, we're going on 20 minutes now. I don't even know anyone's watching this far. Would be it would be less than half this short. It would be less than 10 minutes long. Just because that would make me happy. I mean, like right now, speaking of visual novels, this game, Travis Strikes Again, it's probably, I would say definitely not as good as the first Silver Case and Flower, Sun, and Rain, which is the best of the Silver Case games. The only Silver Case game it might be better than is 25th Ward, and I'm not even sure about that because I've been watching people stream 25th Ward, and it's pretty fun to watch a second time, which is surprising to me. I kind of thought that game would be bad playing it, seeing it a second time, but it's not. Last thing I want to say is Suda should have thought a little more about what needed to be done to bring Travis back, to make him beloved, more beloved, which he is already by fans. Suda shouldn't have done this game. We know that a lot of people don't like the way it looks, don't like the way it plays. It just was not the time. He should have strived. You can tell I'm really tired. To port the first two. That's what he should have done. Whether he added any new content, whether he added 0 new content, if he ported the first two in one Switch cartridge, would have sold way more than this. I don't know how much this sold. Not expecting that it sold that much. It has Shadows of the Damned content in it, so I think maybe that'll curse it and it'll start really bad. Even though it's only $40 at most. $30 digitally without Season Pass. Still don't think it's going to sell that much. And it's just, there's nothing for anyone to sink our teeth into. The thing that people are most excited about in this game are the teases for No More Heroes 3, which there is a pretty cool tease at the very end of the game. So clearly they're trying to make a 3. They're not going to get much money from this game to make one. Suda either should have ported the first 2 over, or he should have done something else. I don't know what. I'm not a genius. I haven't thought about this as much as I would if I was being paid a grasshopper to think about it. Not this. He really wanted to do some sort of indie game tribute thing, and the fact that he combined that with the next entry in the No More Heroes series, spinoff or not, was the wrong choice. He should have made this indie thing a new IP, done something else with Travis. Maybe just a visual novel would have been nice. That's all I have to say. That's a lot of thoughts. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you understood more than I did about Travis Strikes Again, because I'm open to conversation. I'm open to if the characters, if the bosses do have meaning to them that will improve my opinion of the game. It won't improve it that much, but it will improve it. For now, I'm going to go to sleep. Thanks for watching.